Hi, Jim. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Stephanie. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm doing okay. So, I wanted to see how you're doing since our last session.
Uh, right now, I think I'm doing pretty good. But Mr. Insecurity did kind of creep up on me and bother me this last week.
Okay. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about Mr. Insecurity?
Sure. So, um, I'm in HR and I have to hire somebody to replace the person that just got fired for stealing. And, you know, um, in looking through the list of candidates, I just kind of freaked out and I started getting really stressed out. Mr. Insecurity just kind of took me over and popped back in, I guess. Um, it was a little overwhelming, and I just wasn't really sure about any decisions that I was trying to make in looking through the list of candidates. So I was looking at like previous performance. I was trying to figure out what order to interview and kind of rank them. And I just started thinking about the guy that just got fired and how like it was my fault and I should have done better. And I'm just really stressed out and worried that I'm not going to be able to hire somebody good.
Okay. Okay, so what I hear you saying is that I know the last session we had named the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So Mr. Insecurity is
Right.
your excessive worrying about not being able to perform your job.
Yeah, but like stress too.
Your stress. Okay. So Mr. Insecurity, I'm proud of you for understanding that it's a separate entity. So you
Right.
were aware to notice that if it was coming, that it was, its own thing. So, but it did come about and you were able, and it caused all these emotions. So it made you second guess yourself, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I didn't recognize it right away. Mm-hmm. So it got to the point where I was having a lot of anxiety and I was starting to sweat a lot, because I was getting worried and insecure and I'm on a deadline. And so I'm just stressed out that I'm not going to make that deadline. And, if I push myself to meet the deadline, I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to thoroughly go through and make a good decision. And, I'm going to end up hiring somebody who sucks again.
Okay. So let's talk about the evidence you have when Mr. Insecurity does happen. Mm-hmm. What is your history of, I know you told me you've been at this job for quite a few years, correct?
Yeah, 5 or 6 years.
So how many people have you hired?
Probably 50 people,
wow.
I would say.
And out of those 50 people, have most of them been pretty good at their job?
Probably more than half.
Okay.
Are good.
So it sounds like you have a really good track record of hiring decent candidates, just because maybe you've hired this last one that you had some issues with.
Yeah, I guess I never really thought about it like that. Thinking back, I think out of the 50, most of them are still there. I think there's only probably 4 or 5 that aren't there, that have gotten fired. Some of them have quit and moved on to other jobs, but
okay.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing or if that really makes a difference.
So would you say that this last person that had some issues with the company and ended up being fired, do you feel like you take responsibility for that?
I do, yeah, because he was stealing, and, it wasn't like little stuff. It was like felony, more than $1,000, $2,000.
So looking at this person's behaviors and his actions, I guess I want to know, when you hired him, did you do a background check? Did you check everything to make sure that he was qualified for the job?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so we go through the thorough investigation, background check, and call previous employers, and we're pretty thorough, and we have a few people that do that, like help me out with that
So it sounds like
aspect of it.
you've done a good job at making sure he was qualified. I guess, how would you have known that this person was going to do all of these things?
I guess you don't. I guess I wouldn't know. I mean, because we do the background check, so I hope that something comes up during that,
Mm-hmm.
and but that's part of Mr. Insecurity, is that there's always that one part that you don't really know for sure.
Okay, okay. But maybe having you think about it in a way that this was beyond your control. You did everything that you were supposed to do as an HR, hiring a person, is that you did everything and it was beyond your control of what they did. So his actions don't reflect you and your job performance.
I know that, like, intellectually,
Mm-hmm.
but I just struggle, like, internalizing that and believing it, I guess.
Okay.
Because I understand,
Mm-hmm.
like, that, yeah, I did everything that I was supposed to do, and I couldn't have controlled his actions. I couldn't even have predicted his actions or known that he was going to do that. But part of me still feels like I should have hired somebody different. Like, if I just made a little different choice, then things would have been better.
Okay.
I guess in what you're saying also, there's no way to know if that person wouldn't have done something too. So,
Right. Because they came off like they were perfect for the job.
Right.
So you seem to do a great job at knowing that they were qualified enough to
yeah, thank you.
have it. So that's
I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So I guess let's go back to Mr. Insecurity.
Okay.
Since this seems to be attacking you on a daily basis when you're at work. Can you maybe give me a story of the worrying, the excessive worrying? Has this been an issue for you in the past?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Anytime there's a significant task to be done, or like where I'm being judged on a certain type of performance,
Mhm.
like I have to do something and getting a grade or a judgment for it. I think there's always kind of been some insecurity and some stress,
Okay. So
some worry.
would you say that this has been a part of your childhood?
Yeah,
Okay. So is it something that you identify with?
yeah.
Okay.
Growing up,
So the excessive worrying, the stressing, maybe having some low self-confidence, not believing in yourself, has been something that you can identify with.
absolutely.
Okay. But we were able to realize that, this is something separate. So treating these emotions, these problems, as a separate entity that's not a part of you, but happens to you.
Hmm.
And when it does happen to you, you're capable of realizing it, pointing it out, and targeting it as something that's attacking you and making you feel all of these things. So how do you think that you can handle in the future not blaming yourself about specific individuals taking advantage of the company, but it may happen.
Yeah, and I think what you said earlier and the last time about really looking at the proof, like is there proof to back that up?
Right.
And or I think you said evidence. So
Mm-hmm.
the evidence to back that up, and you're right. My track record is pretty good as far as the people I've hired. Not many people have not worked out for the company. Only one has ended up stealing, and that overall that's pretty good. But I think dealing with Mr. Insecurity and realizing when he does come on is just kind of taking a step back and thinking about, okay, is this real or is this just something that I'm kind of putting on myself?
Right. Yeah, and just like you said, using that evidence to back it up. So when those, Mr. Insecurity targets you and attacks you, you can use the evidence of your great track record. You are great, you're great at your job. You're capable of hiring qualified candidates. You have in the past. That's the evidence. So
Right.
using that and maybe creating more of a positive attitude about yourself and about your qualities could,
I think that'll go a long way toward helping, put Mr. Insecurity back in his place.
yeah,
You
just,
tell
approach
him to go
him.
away.
Yeah, approach him head on and, tell him who's boss.
Yeah.